Well, good evening. Friday evening, and looking at a restarted stream here. Apparently, something in the OBS program reverted to a previous configuration, and I have no idea why. But I think we're up and running now. So let's check out what's happening across Texas and the rest of the U.S., and we'll see how we're doing here. All right. There's our temperature anomaly chart showing below normal temperatures across the Midwest. That's due to a air mass that has shifted southeast over the past few days. And we're finding it now there in the Midwest. Temperatures across that area looking pretty mild. Been on the cool side, 50s and 40s for Texas, and then 20s and a few teens as we get up into the upper Midwest. This is all due to that very persistent northwesterly flow out of Canada. And in fact, that Rex block we were talking about yesterday, that has kind of given way to an omega block. And at each corner here, we can see a trough. So there's one right there, and we have even a third one rounding the bend coming into the Ketchikan-Juneau area. And that's going to continue shifting southward over the next few days, and then we're going to find that coming into the Central Plains and Midwest as we get into the mid part of next week. Here's the satellite imagery for the Pacific. Looks pretty quiet, but looks can be deceiving. We do have a little bit of something going on right here in Oregon. We're going to check that out. We've got another system upstream right there, just north of Hawaii, and another system out here. And this is all going to be significant. We'll take a look at the water vapor imagery. And first off, you can see we do have a little vortex moving onto the Oregon coast right there, just southwest of Portland, west of the Willamette Valley. So we're looking at the center of that circulation right there. And we're going to come back to the model charts and find that. Other than that, we can see a good fetch of Pineapple Express moisture moving into California. That's going to be taking aim on the California coast over the next 12 to 24 hours. And let's see here. I was going to bring up the precipitable water because we're getting into that season, February. And take a look what's going to happen. This is the Pacific, the northwest coast, or Pacific Northwest right there. Alaska up to the top of the screen. There's Siberia. And Hawaii is going to be right down here. So the purple corresponds to high precipitable water, high water vapor concentrations in the troposphere. And you can see we've got a couple features. One is this little pool of water vapor around the 25 to 30 north line. The second is a bunch pooling south of Japan. So put those together. Let's roll that forward. So you can see this bit of water vapor kind of stretching out. Then we get the slug moving eastward. This is 96 hours on the 7th, and you can see one bit of that takes aim on California, second one lining up for the 10th and 12th, and we see that coming to California. There we go, right there around the 15th and 16th. So Pacific system's coming in, and there's another shot coming in towards the 19th. So it looks like a busy mid-month period for California here. So we'll come back to the GFS and get a look at that in a bit. Okay, back to the little vortex over the Oregon coast. This here is the 925 millibar heights and vorticity. Don't really see anything there. Do we see a surface system? Well, for that we need to go to the METAR data. So we'll load up some METAR and synoptic data and see if we can resolve that little low along the Oregon coast. So we'll shift our map down there. and plot out the current hour's data. And you can see a little bit of freezing rain there in Portland. So we're bringing in a little bit of dry, cold air from the desert regions, precipitating on top of that, getting a little bit of wet bulbing in that air mass. But yeah, it looks like we've got a little close circulation right here along the coast, right about there. And that kind of opens up into a large trough as we get up to 500 millibars. And you see that right there. So that's the trough supporting that whole system. And there you go. So let's take a look at the fronts. We're seeing a little bit of thickness starting to pack up against within the U.S. There's one band right there in the eastern U.S. and another forming up here in the Pacific Northwest. So that one band up here in the Pacific Northwest, that's probably supporting this front kind of like this. And you can see Portland right up there north of the warm front, and then along the Atlantic coast, front extending like that. Pretty similar to what we had yesterday across this area here. Cold air moving southward, cold air advection along the east coast, high pressure in the Midwest, and then we're starting to get that warm air advection setting up on the central and northern Great Plains right there. Okay, yeah, let's take a quick look at soundings. We'll go to Salem. So we know from looking at all this frontal data that we're going to find Salem pretty much in the, let me show that to you, somewhere around the triple point area. Salem's about right there. So we can see there's a little bit of warm air just to the south, 52 degrees there at Medford. So maybe the front is actually a little bit further south. So we're going to look for some sort of a frontal inversion, and a very shallow one since we're seeing freezing rain there. So we're kind of pulling things together and developing a consistent look three-dimensionally at what's happening in the atmosphere. And there you see a very shallow cold air mass. At the very top of that air mass, about 43 degrees Fahrenheit, 6 Celsius right there, up at about 2,000 to 3,000 feet right there. And above that, kind of looks like a little bit of a cool tropical air mass pattern, very thick moisture right there, all the way up to about 12,000 feet. Okay, time to take a look at the 500 millibar analysis, and we'll look at vorticity. And before I get too much further with that, let me take a look at chat, make sure our audio is not crashed or anything like that. Good, we got 17 viewers back online. It's a little bit less than what we had earlier, but we were down there for about 10 minutes due to a old configuration file loading in. Okay, I remember, I think it was Jeff Lockwood asked last night about where do we get that thickness chart. This one right here. I might as well show you, and I remember, I think that was you, Jeff, that asked about this. That's going to be under, let's see if I can get back to that menu here. Yeah, when you pull up the NAM product and go to North America, you're going to get this thing right here. And you're going to select this 1,000 through 500 millibar thickness right there. And you may not get the precipitation. And just to show you, if I click on this and click on that and bring up 0, you're not going to get the initial fields showing you precipitation. And that's the reason I often back it up to 18Z here, so I can get that additional field there. So there we go. And that's what we use right there. Mark asked about good weather books. Well, there's Weather Analysis and Forecasting and Severe Storm Handbook. Aside from that, I'll let you all recommend some choices. I like the Meteorology trying to remember the title. Yeah, I see it over here. Mesoscale Meteorology, and let me go grab the book for you. If you get a copy of this book, it's an amazing book. It's by Paul Markowski at PSU and Yvette Richardson. Mesoscale Meteorology in Mid-Latitudes by Wiley Blackwell. And that is a definite must-have, and it goes into pretty much everything you need to know about meteorology in the sub-synoptic range. But some of it is applicable to continental forecasting like you see here, so definitely get that and add that to your collection. And you could probably find a used book if you need to on Amazon there. Let's see here. I'm scrolling through all these text messages. There's a bunch in here. Let's see here. Got Sue, Alexi, and Ancient Astronaut checking in. Jeff. And see Ron checking in here from California. And we just covered some California weather coming up mid-month, so you might want to look at the replay of that. All right, so let's head into the forecast. We will bring this up, and we're going to start with the upper air forecast here on the GFS. And there's that system right there in northern British Columbia that we're concerned about. This is the one coming onto the Oregon coast. That's going to die off as it gets into this ridge right here. So let's run that forward. So here's our Pacific system. We can just barely track it here with this cyclonic vorticity coming across the ridge. And this is the system coming off British Columbia, opening up into this trough, and we're going to see that eject eastward into the plains. So you see it comes in a phase with this trough right here, and then it moves out on the 6th and 7th, and there we go right there. Negative tilt trough coming across the plains, and we're looking at pretty much the Great Lakes, Chicago, Indianapolis, Lincoln, Toledo, Detroit. That's going to be under the gun. You can see right here, jet stream. Do you remember that from previous webcasts? It's going to be just south of that little pattern, and the left front quadrant working this area. So that's where you're going to have your cyclonic, or let me back that up, pressure falls at the surface right there, with maybe a cyclonic response at the surface there. So that's where we're going to watch right there in Illinois and Indiana. Anyway, that'll move eastward, and then we look out to the plain, to the Pacific. We get a ridge forming on the 9th, and then next system down the line coming in on the doing that again, onto the Pacific coast. So there we go right there. So that moves eastward, and then our next system comes across, and remember, we're starting to pull these bands of Pineapple Express moisture coming onto the California coast. And that's especially strong with systems like you see right here, this wave right there. That's going to be bringing some of that moisture onto the northern California and Oregon coast right there. This is for the 15th. And there comes another shot of moisture into the northern California area on the 17th. So looks pretty wet there. But we're going to see some of this in the Central Plains as these move eastward. The big question is whether they can couple with Gulf of Mexico moisture coming northward. So we'll head into the surface forecast here, load up the GFS, get that all set up. Okay, so there's our current picture, and you can see a little bit of the structure of that system. Still not there. Let's try that again. Okay, there we go. You can see a little bit of that structure of that Pacific system out here. Low pressure just off the coast there, and you can't really pick out the warm front very well. That's where we have to go to that surface data but looks like it's somewhere kind of like that. So you can see a little bit of that overrunning going on there in the Columbia Valley. So bringing it forward into the weekend, warm air advection, kind of the rule for the Great Plains. Lost my place again. There we go, Saturday and Sunday. Warm air advection over this area right here. We see a little bit of an Alberta Clipper system coming south. So then for Sunday, there we go. This is that system coming through dry in the Great Plains here. Then around the 6th or 7th, we see the Pacific system finally making its move right here. Let me give you the structure of this system. It's going to look something like this right here. And you see the stronger thickness packing on the back side of that right through here. This is your frontal slope north of these fronts back in this area. And with that, this is that anafront structure. If you look that up on the internet, ANA, anafront, that's what's going on. Very common pattern with these Pacific systems as they move inland. In the Great Plains, lee side troughing mostly taking effect in this area, but that comes in a phase with the main system as it comes out. And let me get rid of this here. Then we see our big low pressure system on the 7th, on Tuesday. And this is kind of what the European model was forecasting a few days ago here. And so we see that comes out into Illinois, Indiana, and Michigan, and pretty good hit of cold air into Missouri and Kansas. Looks like the model has gone a little bit southwest with that. I think yesterday was taking this cold air advection mostly into this area, and tonight we're seeing it more towards Memphis, Paducah, and St. Louis. So that'll give us a little bit of a cool down here in Texas as that grazes us. A little bit of cold air advection on the backside, but the ridging quickly builds in, and you can see the warm air advection already starting on the high plains here. Very tightly wound up system there over Lake Huron, and very strong precipitation bands. There's the wraparound, and also some lake effect going on there in Michigan, and especially I'm not sure if that's going to be lake effect in the Detroit area. I think that's mostly dynamic right there, plus we're getting towards the end of lake effect season. But the system moves on off. Bulk of the cold air affects mostly the Ohio Valley, and then we get warm air advection starting up over Texas on Thursday the 9th. So we'll finish it up here. Bit of cold air advection on the later on the 9th into Texas. Cold front moves south, another system coming out of Alberta here. You can see the main thickness band kind of in this area. Probably another front coming through the Pacific here. So we bring that forward to the 12th, and we can see our front kind of like this. New front coming through Texas and Oklahoma on the 12th, and picks up a little bit of moisture here along the Gulf. The Gulf is slightly open here, so we're going to see some showers there on Sunday night. I don't know if it's just me. It seems like Sunday is becoming a very common day of the week for showers in the Louisiana and East Texas area. Very strange. But anyway, high pressure building into that area for next week, the following week on the 14th. And then Chaser Con coming up for the 18th looks pretty quiet. This is dominated by lee side troughing, a little bit of upper level energy coming across the Rockies for some high-based snow showers. And other than that, looks pretty quiet there. So let me just finish up here, and before I close out, we'll see what people have to say. Just a little bit of a weather discussion in chat, thickness charts, talking about the books. Some of our viewers talking about getting a book list together. Excellent. Yeah, it's definitely a good idea. All right, so we're up to about 24 after the hour, so I think I'm probably done about here. Anyway, that'll probably wrap us up for tonight. I appreciate you watching, and hopefully we'll see you tomorrow night. Thanks. Have a good weekend, guys.